I've now spent over 5 years building a creative agency the way that I've always wanted to, like from the ground up type of agency. And it's not easy, but I do think you can do it, and I think you can be more successful at it than I can. So today I want to talk about the lessons that I've learned along the way to help you leapfrog some of the failures that I've experienced in my life. And if you've clicked this link, I hope that you're agency prospector, somebody who's thinking about it, and we're going to help you. We're going to talk about the essential skills that you need to run a creative agency. Let's do it. So there's two main focuses that people need to think about when they're thinking about starting a creative agency, or any agency for that matter. Most people, when they're starting this venture, they think about the first thing, which is the positioning. What's my offer? How can I solve a problem for these people? How much money can I make? What's the opportunity available? How can I carve out a space for myself? If I'm a designer, maybe I'm designing logos for restaurants, and if I make, one logo a week for $500, that's $2,000 a month. I can hire some other people to do XYZ, and then you start to dream and think about where you can network, how you can join the industry, different opportunities. Positioning, okay? How you position yourself, what the name of the company is going to be, your SEO, maybe a website. You're thinking and dreaming in terms of a business. The second thing that people focus on, or they should be focusing on, is their essential skills. The essential skills that it takes to actually run and operate an agency that's not just going to be a solopreneurship. That's not just going to be me by myself with wearing multiple hats. And most people get stuck on the positioning side, what they're going to offer to the community, and not necessarily on the essential skill side. What is it specifically do I need to learn, or skills do I need to sharpen for me to be effective in this role? I wish I can go back and do it this way and learn these skills instead of focusing on the dreaming part, and be like, hey, let's focus on the actual resources you're going to need to have within yourself to be a good person fit to run a creative agency. So today we're talking about that. Another time we're going to make a video called positioning your creative agency, or something along those lines. But for now, let's talk about the skills of a creative agency owner. First up, what is a creative agency? Simply put, it's a grouped skills to serve one goal. A bunch of people that work there are people that have different skill sets, but they're usually kind of honed in around different areas. But they're there to solve one goal. Like a web design agency is there to create websites. So there have different people there that are copywriters, different people there that are developers, that are designers, that are experience experts, research and modeling, all that prototyping, all that type of stuff. But they're there for one goal. And there's different types of creative agencies, and you probably have heard some of them, or heard the word agency thrown around loosely. Loosely just means groups of skills served for one goal. You've heard say probably like a marketing agency. That's probably thinking about like strategy, promotion, execution. That's a very tactical type of agency. Creative or a design agency, these are people who are artists. These are people who partner often with other types of agencies to get the work actually done, or they're hired by other agencies. So let's say a marketing agency could hire a design agency to design some creative for a Google ad campaign. Advertising, think about exposure, PR, media buying. These are traditional forms of, not exclusively, but these are like traditional forms of agencies, of marketing. There's even full service agencies. Obviously that means they kind of do a lot of things, where it's media buying, it's marketing, it's design, it's video production, everything. There's also web agencies, like I've mentioned before. The list goes on, but now you're starting to get an understanding how there are different types of agencies for different things, because they have a different set of skills, or a different grouping of skills for the end goal. Speaking of end goal, all of this means when you have a creative agency, no matter what kind it is, it's basically you're offering a service that's going to help people elevate the brand experience and elevate the brand story. Brand experience, brand story. That's what we're talking about an agency really does in the creative space as a service provider. So when you're thinking about a web developer, let's use that same example again. The web developer and the web designer and the web agency, they're there to elevate the experience people have when they're interacting with the brand, and they're there to elevate the story and weave that through the design and the execution and the user interface of the website. So when you're thinking about creative agencies, think about elevation. We're here to elevate the experience, elevate the story. So here are the essential skills that you gotta have to be a successful creative entrepreneur. Again, the reason why I'm starting with this one first, even though technically it's kind of like a second piece, is because so many people focus on the first part, which I mentioned is the positioning and your offer, and they don't count the full cost of what it takes to be the person who runs a creative agency. One of the great books I read early on in my career, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber, he talks so well about his main point here is the entrepreneur, the manager, and the technician. Fantastic read. The entrepreneur is the person who has the vision, who has the big ideas, who's the leader. The manager is the person who executes and who is able to translate that into tangible goals for them to actually reach their goals. And the technician is like the artisan, the technician, the person who does it. And one of the examples he uses is a baker. People always synonymously assume that the baker is the baker, that the person who owns the bakery is the person who is making the bread. And that's very seldom the case, because there's usually a lot of different things that have to get made in a day, and the baker cannot make it. Is he any less the baker if he's just the owner of the bakery, or the chief baker in terms of making the recipes, setting the menus, ordering supplies, all that kind of stuff? No, he's still the baker. But people assume that all of his time is spent making bread, making cakes. This is the idea that I want to leave you with in terms of understanding your role and what you have to do, because a lot of times we get caught up in that technician role, which is the person who actually does the work. Most people that start creative agencies have like a 70% disposition towards being the technician, and the remaining 30% is distributed to be the entrepreneur and to be the manager. And that's completely an opposite. 30% of you should be the technician, and you need to allocate the remaining 70% to being the entrepreneur and to being the manager. That's the first thing you got to get out of your head. If you want to be a solopreneur or you want to be a freelancer, then you can be the technician and only allocate those 30% to the others. But if you want to be an agency owner, 70% of your effort, of your time, of your energy, of your focus needs to be thinking like an entrepreneur and like a manager. The four categories that matter most, these things are not like individual blocks, like squares. These are more like concentric circles that are all touching and overlapping. The first one is leadership. Leadership meaning serving others, governing yourself, having vision and casting vision, inspiring people. Number two is management. Management financially, management of people, translating the vision into culture. That's the tangible word. Number three is workflow. Your workflow meaning operationally, what does this look like? Financially, what does this look like? Creatively, what is the process here? What are we doing here to create a transformation to get an end result here repeatably, similarly, every single time? And then lastly, number four is relationship management. Internal, external. How do we listen? How do we talk? How do we hear? How do we deliver? Managing these relationships internally with your team and with your clients. These things are all touching. They're all interlocked with each other. And because of that, I'm just gonna run through some of the aspects of those four that are the most important, and there's 6 of them, to running an effective business. First, build a strong team. Okay, this is probably the most important thing outside of positioning for your business. The people that you hire matter. How you hire them and discover talent matter. You want them to have diverse backgrounds, and you want them to have talent. Hire really good people that look and sound different than you. They're gonna have different life experiences that are gonna be able to bring a rich color of information that's gonna help you run your business. Foster positive and creative work culture within your team. Make make sure that they are all gelling together and that they know how to work together. They don't have to be best friends. They don't have to be talking offline and all that kind of stuff. But you want them to feel comfortable with each other, where ideas are being shared and ideas are being received. Next is nurturing creativity and innovation. I've been in places where ideas are not necessarily appreciated and certain types of creativity is not appreciated. The worst thing you can do is tell people no in the sense when you're talking about ideation. When you're just spitballing, you're brainstorming, you're trying to bring ideas to life, no should not be in the vocabulary. But you should have a safe space for ideas, for creativity. You want to show them and to show your team that you are willing to balance the client's expectation with your agency's creativity style, and you're trying to see, okay, where does the project goal fit between our style and how audacious we want to be and what our client is expecting us to do. And you want to be able to embrace new technology and new trends within the creative industry to help you do this. It is not stealing, but if you can emulate and if you can interject something from a different industry into this industry, you'll be able to help your clients, and you'll be able to open up the doors for your team to think even wider and not just within the confines. So open up the doors, let them think as big as they can so that they feel like creativity is a real part of what it means to be a team member at your agency. Number 3, handle client projects effectively. This is paramount. Again, by hiring talented people to do roles, you can have yourself a project manager who can communicate and handle the expectations of the clients and the project properly, and they can set clear project scope and have deliverable dates that are met and not going over and missing deadlines. You want to deal with client feedback and with revisions in a way that makes it feel constructive to the creative process, so that there is collaboration from the client side and that there's understanding and it's not felt like critiquing on the design side. As a creative, whether it's video or whether it's web or whether it's design, it doesn't matter. But when your client gives you feedback, this is your moment to shine, actually, to understand even deeper what makes them the client that you really signed on. Oh, this is the heart of the matter. This is why you guys chose us. This is why we chose you. We're getting to know each other even more. We found out what a limitation or a restraint is for them. That's valuable information, and this is a crux of handling a client's project like, their baby, because it means that you actually care. When a project manager is communicating clearly, and when a project manager is understanding the scope well enough to explain it and to have it written as a written document, like a brief, that's the best, because now everyone's firing on the same cylinders, and collaboration is tough, but it's so powerful. So getting everybody on the same page is very, very much a need to have, and you need to have that skill to understand, who am I going to bring in that can solve this problem for me, who can understand uniquely what the needs are for the client and what our capabilities are for the account and for the agency itself. Fourth, marketing and business development. As an owner of a creative agency, this is something I think about constantly, is what are we doing in terms of our positioning and our business development more specifically, to help us have a really strong brand identity, to make sure everything we do is brand focused, that is aligned with who we are, what we stand for, what is our value system, and how do we make sure that things that we do on our marketing front align with our values. How do I build networking partnerships with different companies or agencies or future prospective clients? These are the things like a leader really needs to hone in to be able to understand how they're providing value and why vision matters and how it actually matters to the bottom line. Number 5, overcoming challenges and roadblocks. They are coming. Challenges are coming. It's never easy sailing when you're trying to do something new. It's something that you've never done before. And as a leader, as somebody who owns a creative agency, the skill that you're going to need here is a plan. Don't rely on your gut or your instincts. When you're in hot waters, or when a situation is happening where you're like, I'm getting pushed back in a way I've never felt before, rely on what you said you were going to do when times were good. When times are good, write down a plan. Here's how we solve these types of problems: financial, personnel, client, industry, global pandemic. Now's the time when things are good, when things are moving, to be like, okay, this is a good pace. I like this. How do I save this? How do I preserve this? If things start breaking, if you start taking on water, you need to be able to get rid and bail water while also maybe changing course and direction. And if you're relying just on your instinct to tell you when the right time or which degree to change, your sail, you're probably going to get yourself into more trouble than less trouble. Make sure that people around you also know what this plan is. Whoever your next in command is, whatever position that is, for me, that's my project manager. Make sure they understand what they need to do as well, what their version of this plan is for clients, for our creative team. That's paramount. The skill you need to learn is learning. What happened here? I need to debrief. Okay, let me see what mistakes did I made. How am I going to adapt for the future? These are paramount skills that you have to have as a leader, because you're going to encounter challenges, whether small or big. Lastly, adopt clear and transparent communication. I think everybody who's ever had a job ever in the history of the world will have put this probably as first, as like, please, I just want clear and transparent communication. I don't want politics. I don't want to read between lines. I just want to know exactly what I'm supposed to do in the clearest way possible. Again, this is a great line from the E-Myth. They talk about having people that can do the job no matter what their skill level is. That means that your instructions, your workflow, your dialogue, how you communicate is so clear that if somebody, were to leave today, you can find somebody else. Everything is documented. Everything is clear and transparent, that somebody else can jump in and not feel completely and utterly lost. I have been there with big name companies and with independent firms where you're working somewhere, and even though they have lots of documentation, it's not clear and you don't feel like you know what's going on. And when you ask questions, the answers don't necessarily help you. So we do this in our company by doing active listening. It builds tons of trust, especially with clients. Understanding what miscommunication is and how to avoid it. Consistent progress updates on all fronts. I want our teams, whether it's content creation, whether it's development, whether it's project management, whether it's management, to all be updating each other on what's going on, so that they are relevantly informed. Everybody has an understanding of what is happening. And there's multiple ways that you can do this, but the best way to do this is to be intentional. Make it part of your routine to always get status updates and to also provide status updates so your team understands what's going on. I hope these 4 skills are really helping you shape your thinking and preparation for when and how you're going to start your creative agency. I think you're going to be amazing at this, and I think that you're going to go even further than what I've done in my 5 years. You'll do it in 2. That's my hope for this video. Just remember, it's not all about positioning. Positioning is super important. We're going to spend a whole other video on that, but for you, the person who runs the agency, think about your leadership style, think about your management, think about your workflow, think about your relationship management as well. Remember, you are not competing with anybody else, you are competing with yourself. So you might as well be the best version of yourself that you can be. I've been Bart. Peace out.